Good morning. I want to start with a question. When you walk through a forest, what do you see? Most of us see individual trees, separate organisms, each fighting for its own patch of sunlight. But what if I told you that beneath your feet, those trees are connected in a vast, ancient network? That they share food, warn each other of danger, and even recognize their own offspring? This is the story of the Wood Wide Web, and it changes everything we thought we knew about forests. Over the next several minutes, I will take you underground into a hidden world of fungal threads, chemical signals, and tree communities that have been cooperating for nearly 500 million years. Here is our roadmap for today. We will begin by challenging the old view of forests as competitive battlegrounds. Then we will meet the scientist who brought the Wood Wide Web to the world's attention, Suzanne Simard. Next, we will explore the mechanics. How do these fungal networks actually work? I will introduce you to the concept of mother trees, the central hubs of the forest. We will examine what exactly flows through these networks: sugars, water, warning signals. Then we will step back to appreciate the sheer scale of this phenomenon before confronting an important question: how much of this story is scientifically settled and how much remains debated? Finally, we will consider what it all means for ecology, for conservation, and for how we understand life on Earth. Let us begin with the paradigm we are overturning. For centuries, really since the birth of modern biology, forests were understood through the lens of competition. Every tree was an individual, struggling against its neighbors for light, water, and soil nutrients. This view made intuitive sense. You can see the race for the canopy with your own eyes. But starting in the 1990s, a series of discoveries began to complicate this picture. Researchers found that trees of different species were physically connected underground by fungal filaments, and these connections were not passive. They were conduits. Carbon, water, nutrients, even information was moving from tree to tree. The forest, it turned out, was not a war zone. It was a community. This conceptual shift is at the heart of everything we will discuss today. Every scientific revolution has a story, and this one begins with a woman named Suzanne Simard. Born into a family of foresters in the British Columbia interior, Simard grew up surrounded by trees and by the logging industry's assumptions about how forests work. When she entered academia at the University of British Columbia, she began asking questions that challenged the orthodoxy. In 1997, her doctoral research produced a finding so striking that it made the cover of the journal Nature. She had demonstrated using radioactive carbon tracers that trees in a forest were sharing carbon through underground fungal connections. The Wood Wide Web had been discovered. Let us now look at how it actually works. So what exactly is this network? At the physical level, it is remarkably straightforward, and yet its implications are profound. Mycorrhizal fungi are thread-like organisms that grow in and around the roots of plants. The word itself tells the story: myco for fungus, rhizal for root. These fungi are not passive passengers, they are active trading partners. The fungal hyphae, microscopically thin filaments, penetrate tree roots and extend outward through the soil, sometimes for meters. When hyphae from the same fungal organism encounter roots from different trees, they create a physical bridge. Suddenly, two trees that appear separate above ground are linked below. And here is the staggering figure. Roughly 9 out of every 10 plant species on Earth form these associations. This is not a niche curiosity. This is the norm. And it has been the norm for 450 million years, since before the dinosaurs, since before the first vertebrate walked on land. At the heart of Simard's research is a concept that has captured the public imagination: the mother tree. In a healthy forest, not all nodes in the network are equal. The oldest, largest trees, what Simard's mother trees or hub trees, serve as the central anchors of the mycorrhizal network. They are connected to hundreds of other trees around them. Simard's research shows something remarkable. These mother trees can recognize their own offspring, trees grown from their seeds, and preferentially channel carbon and nutrients toward them. They appear to reduce their own root competition to make space for their kin. When a mother tree is dying, it can dump its remaining resources back into the network, a kind of last transfer to the community it has sustained. This is not anthropomorphism. It is a measurable pattern of resource allocation, demonstrated through isotope tracing in the field. The implications for how we manage forests, particularly how we log them, are profound and deeply consequential. Let us now examine what actually moves through this network, the currency of the underground economy. On the left, we see what the trees contribute. Through photosynthesis, trees fix atmospheric carbon into sugars. Some of that sugar is not used by the tree that produced it. It enters the mycorrhizal network and travels to other trees. This is not trivial. Carbon transfer between trees has been tracked using radioactive isotopes, confirming that the movement is real and measurable. Trees under drought stress can also receive water through the network. And when pests attack, chemical warning signals travel through the same channels. Now, why would fungi facilitate all this? They are not altruists. On the right, we see the answer. The fungi retain roughly 30% of the sugar flowing through the network as their payment. In return, they provide the trees with something equally valuable: access to soil nutrients, particularly phosphorus and nitrogen, which fungal hyphae can extract from soil pores far too small for roots to penetrate. This is mutualism. Both parties benefit. Neither is being exploited, and this arrangement has been stable for 450 million years. One of the most compelling functions of the Wood Wide Web is its role in forest defense. Imagine this scenario. A bark beetle lands on a pine tree and begins to burrow. The tree detects the attack and immediately releases chemical signals, volatile organic compounds, and other distress markers into its tissues. Some of those signals enter the mycorrhizal network and travel through the soil to neighboring trees. Those neighbors, upon receiving the signal, begin producing defensive chemicals preemptively. They ramp up their immune systems. They are not yet attacked, but they are preparing, and this preparation can mean the difference between survival and mortality. The network, in other words, serves as an early warning system. It is not a conscious warning in any human sense. Trees do not have brains, but it is a functional signal that produces a defensive response. And it illustrates a crucial point. In a connected forest, no tree faces a threat entirely alone. I want to pause here and let the scale of this sink in. 90%, 9 out of every 10 plant species on land form mycorrhizal associations. This is not a rare symbiosis found in a few obscure ecosystems. This is the dominant mode of plant life on Earth. When you walk through a forest, a meadow, or even a suburban garden, you are walking above a living network. The mycorrhizal symbiosis is also extraordinarily ancient. The fossil record places its origin at around 450 million years ago, coinciding with the moment plants first colonized terrestrial environments. In fact, many paleobotanists now believe that plants could not have colonized land at all without fungal partners, that the mycorrhizal relationship was not an optional add-on, but a prerequisite for terrestrial plant life. The Wood Wide Web, in other words, is not a recent discovery about forests. It is a discovery about the deep history of life on Earth. I would be doing you a disservice if I did not address the scientific debate surrounding this topic. In recent years, a number of researchers have pushed back against what they see as an overinterpretation of the Wood Wide Web evidence. Justine Karst and colleagues published a critical review suggesting that many commonly cited claims, particularly about substantial net resource transfer between adult trees, rest on limited or context-dependent evidence. A 2024 paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences made similar arguments. The critics make an important point, demonstrating that carbon can move between trees in a laboratory or a manipulated field plot is not the same as demonstrating that this movement is ecologically decisive in a natural forest. And some of the language we use, communication, parental care, warning, carries anthropomorphic baggage that may mislead as much as it illuminates. However, and this is crucial, even the strongest critics do not dispute that functional common mycorrhizal networks exist, that carbon and other compounds can and do move through them, and that these networks are ecologically important. The debate is about how much, under what conditions, and with what consequences. Good science lives in this tension, between the exciting finding and the rigorous critique. Let me close with a reflection on why this matters, beyond the science, beyond the debate. The Wood Wide Web is conceptually important because it challenges a deeply ingrained narrative that nature is fundamentally competitive, that every organism is an island, that the strong survive and the weak perish. This narrative has shaped not just ecology, but economics, politics, and culture. What the mycorrhizal network reveals is that cooperation, interdependence, and mutual aid are not recent human inventions. They are ancient, biological, woven into the very fabric of terrestrial life. Forests are not collections of individuals. They are communities. They are systems. And understanding them as such changes not only how we study them, but how we manage them, how we conserve them, and how we relate to the living world. The trees have been talking to each other for 450 million years. We are only just beginning to listen.